Hi class, welcome to our next lesson. We are now on 3.4. What we're doing in this lesson is we are graphing inequalities. We're going to take a break from our word problems for a little bit and get back to a little bit more traditional algebra. So here's what we're doing. We already know how to graph this line. We already know how to graph this line. So now we're just going to graph both of them and shade accordingly. And then there's going to be a common shaded region amongst both lines that is going to be our solution. So let's first graph this one. We're going to change it into y equals mx plus b form. So right now we have x minus a y is greater than or equal to 2. So let's get this into y equals mx plus b form, or slope-intercept form. We're going to subtract an x. So a negative y is greater than or equal to a negative x with a positive 2. And now we have the negative y here, so let's divide by a negative 1 to get a positive y. So now remember what happens when you divide by a negative. When you divide or multiply by a negative, it changes the sign. So now y is, instead of greater than or equal to, it's less than or equal to. A negative x divided by a negative 1, that makes a positive x. And 2 divided by a negative 1 is a negative 2. So this is going to be one line that we are going to put on our graph and shade accordingly. And why don't we do that right now? Actually, I changed my mind. Let's do that later. Let's first put this one into y equals mx plus b form. X plus 2y is greater than or equal to 2. X plus 2y is greater than or equal to 2. Let me just make sure I wrote that right. Alright, so let's get y all by itself. Subtract an x from both sides. 2y is greater than or equal to a negative x and a positive 2. And then if I divide both sides by 2, I have y is greater than or equal to a negative 1/2 x. There's a 1 in front of that x. And then 2 divided by 2 is a positive 1. So we're going to graph both of these lines, and then we're going to shade accordingly. So class, I kind of have the luxury of having two different colored pens. If you want to use colored pencils to do this, that might be a good thing. If you do not have colored pencils, if you just have that shade of gray pencil, what I want you to do is this, so that you guys can be very clear about what shading is what. So my first one is y is less than or equal to x minus 2. So my y-intercept is a negative 2, go down 2. And then my slope is a rise of 1, run of 1. So now you're going to connect these dots with a straight line. Get out a planner or an edge of a book or something like that, a ruler. So there is one of my lines. Now let's shade this accordingly. It says y is less than or equal to, so that is shading everything below. So if you just have one writing utensil, that being a pencil, if you can't do this in two different colors, I want you to shade one of your equations horizontally, like this. Have your shading go from left to right. See how that works? My shading went from left to right. And then for your other one, have your shading go vertical or up and down. So I'll do that for this one right here. Y is greater than or equal to a negative 1/2 x plus 1. So my y-intercept is at a positive 1. And then my slope is a negative 1/2. So go down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, so on and so forth. Connect these dots with a straight line. So now this one, I'm going to shade a different way. It is greater than, so it's going to be everything above the line. So it's everything above the second line that I made. So that, I made a mistake. That was dumb of me. Sorry, class. What I want you to do with the second one is I want you to shade it a different direction. So I want you to shade it vertically. So kind of go up and down like this. If you forget to do this in a test class, I'm not going to punish you for it. Even if you have colored pencils on a test, that would be the best thing. But here's what I really want to be very clear on. The area in our graph where you have two different shadings, you have the vertical and you have the horizontal, it's going to be this section right in here. This section, I want you to shade this as black as the night. Okay? I don't want there to be any question in my mind as I'm grading your tests. What area has both lines that are shaded? I want you to make that very, 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 very dark. That way it's very, very clear to me that you know what you're doing, that you know what the solution is. Basically, class, here's what you have found. You have found a whole bunch of ordered pairs right here that work for both of these equations. I can pick this point right here. Whatever that point is, I know that it would make this statement true, and I know that it would make this statement true. You can pick a point right in here. I know that it would make this statement true, and I know that it would make this statement true. If you pick a point in here, it would make one of them true, but it wouldn't make the other one true. Same thing here. If I pick any one of these points, it would make one of these two statements true, but the other one, it would be a false statement. And anything that you pick over here that doesn't have any shading at all would make both of these statements false. So when you tell me what your solution is, you're going to black out the region that has both of the shadings on it. Okay? Now if you have two different colored pencils, that would be the best thing, because you could shade one in red or something like that. You could shade the other one in blue or whatever colors you have. And then you could say, oh, well, where there is red and where there is blue is going to be my solution, and you could put that in a whole different color and shade that in dark again. Something like that. So why don't you guys pause the video, try number 2 on your own, and then you guys can check your work with me and see how you end up. So for this one, we're going to put it into y equals mx plus b form. Whenever we have inequalities, it's best to graph in y equals mx plus b, because it's easier then when we do our greater than or less than, shading above the line and below the line, so on and so forth. So I'm first going to do this one. It's going to be a negative 2y is less than or equal to a negative 3x minus 4. I subtracted that 3x to put it on the right side. Divide by a negative 2. So now y is greater than or equal to, you have to change the sign there, a positive 3/2 x and a positive 2. So here's going to be one equation that you're going to graph. The other one, x plus 4y is greater than or equal to a negative 12. So it's going to be 4y is greater than or equal to a negative x minus 12 when you subtract the x. Divide both sides by 4. So y is greater than or equal to a negative 1/4 x minus 3. A negative 1/4 x minus 3. So let's graph both of these ones and shade accordingly. Here's the red one. My y-intercept is a positive 2. And my slope is a rise of 3 and a run of 2. So if I go up 3 over 2, that's the same thing as going left 2 down 3. Left 2 down 3. So I'm going to connect these two dots with my straight edge. Alright, let's shade accordingly. If you only have one colored pencil, let's shade this one horizontally. So because it's everything greater than, I'm going to go above the line. So I'm going to shade everything right in here. Shade from left to right. So now my blue one, a negative 3 is my y-intercept, and then a slope of a negative 1/4. So down 1, right 4, which once again goes off my graph. That's the same thing as going left 4, up 1. Left 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1. And I'm going to connect these two with a straight edge. And this one I'm going to shade vertically. So I'm going to shade up and down, and it's everything greater than or equal to, so it's everything above the line. And then your solution, you're going to make very, very dark. So my solution, where there's both red and blue, is this section right here. And this section, hopefully when you did this by yourself, that you shaded very, very dark. I hardly want to see any white spaces. Make sure that you shade it very, 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 very dark. Make it clear to me that you know what you're doing. So that is number 2. And let me see. Okay, good. Remember, class, I actually wasn't even thinking of this, and we luckily worked out. It was greater than or equal to and greater than or equal to. And remember, with the equal to, you do have solid lines right here. But remember, if it was not equal to, if it was just greater than or just less than, you would end up having dotted lines right here. So make sure you're aware of that on your worksheet. Same thing on this one. They were both less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. So I was able to use solid lines. But if you don't have that equal to part, you have to have those dotted lines. So keep that in mind as you do your worksheet today.